I I added a couple extra things to it as well.
Okay. So, can you little bit zoom in, to control plus? Good. Okay. So let's see. You initially created the string and defined it null. Then you created Boolean variable. You created dividend and count. Then you are checking your good input if it is false. Well, try catch is not needed. It's just an extra redundant thing. Do you know how exactly try catch works?
Not exactly. I found it by Googling and it seemed to do what I needed at the moment.
Okay, so try catch is it's an advanced concept in Java which is called as exceptional handling. What it does is that you tell to the compiler that if, for instance, like for instance, let me give you an example. When you have an integer, let's suppose 5, and you divide it by 0, which leads to infinity. 5 divided by 0 is infinity, which means that Java compiler cannot handle something which is not defined, which is infinity. So you put this under try and catch block. If, for instance, if you are taking input from the user and you don't know whether the user can input 0, and you are taking a number from the user which and the number is 0, so it means, and if you are doing 5 divided by 0, it will lead to like infinity, a not defined value. So you put this inside try and catch. Catch will just catch the value in terms of whether it can handle that kind of exception, and it will give a response saying that this is not a valid integer or something like that. So try and catch is a kind of an exception handling in Java to handle those kind of things which cannot be computed by Java itself. Um, okay, so then you have written three if condition where you are checking whether it is divisible by 2. So by divisibility, you are checking the mod operation double equals to 0. Then it's a multiple of 2. Why are you actually doing count plus is equal to 1?
Um, I added another thing so that if it's not a multiple of any of those, it'll tell them that it's not.
Oh, okay. So it is just counting the number of times this particular integer is divisible by either 2, 3, or 5, and it will finally return that count value, right?
Well, if it's greater than zero, it does nothing. But if it's zero, it tells them that it's not a multiple of any of those.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, this is a good program. Yeah, that's what I was expecting, except try and catch block, which was not needed. Um, yeah, good, good. Thank you. Has anyone else done this program?
I did it.
Do you want to share your screen?
Yes.
Okay, just 1 second. Okay, you should be able to present your screen now. Okay, so here you are taking the scanner object, which you are taking in the integer, and then you are num1 divided by num2, and then, okay, yeah. This is where, okay, I get it. So you have written a program slightly different. Here you are taking two values from the user, number one and number two, and then you are dividing those number one by number two. If those two numbers, when you are dividing, if the remainder value is 0, then you will print whether it is a multiple of number two or not. Right? That's correct?
Yes.
Okay. Here I would this code is completely fine if you had to take two input from the user. the problem that I had given was that if you had to check with respect to 2, 3, and 5, which means rather than taking input from the user, which is number 2, you don't have to write number 2. You will just assign number 2 equals to 2, number 3 is equals to 3, number 4 equals to 5, and you can just write if that num1 mod num2 num1 mod num3 and num1 mod num4 is if it is double equals to 0. But this is completely fine as well. But you have to take input from the user in this particular program. But this is good work as well.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so good. At least some people did try. So let me now present my screen and let's talk about some other concepts. Okay, so in the last class, and I can either write that specific program as well for you guys to actually see for those who have not written the program so far. I will write down. Okay, so let's see. I will create a new class. The class name is multiple and public static void main. Okay. What I'll do is I'll create a scanner object so I can take it from here. And then let's see, scanner equals to here. Let me first ask the user to input a value. So I will say system dot out dot println, enter the number. And then scanner equals to our next int value. So int number equals to scanner next int. So what I'm asking the user is firstly to input a value, and then I'm taking in the number variable, and whatever is that integer value would be stored over here. Now, so the question was, what I had asked you to write was that to check if that number is divisible by 2 or multiple of 2, 3, and 5. So what you can do is you can write 3 if conditions, and inside this you can write number mod 2. So mod always, this percent sign means that it will check the remainder value when number is divided by 2. And if it is double equal to 0, then I want you to say that it is and I can say the number is a multiple of 2. Or I can say, instead of number, I can say number plus is a multiple of 2. So what I am doing is that I will take an input from the user, and by mod 2, what it means is, let me just open the whiteboard just to make you recall, because mod is a very important operation in Java. So every time when you divide a specific number by its value, so for instance, if you take a number, take 10, and mod 2, if you do this, and double equal to 0, it means that when you divide 10 by 2, the remainder value, if it is equal to 0, then do something. So here, when you divide 10 by 2, the remainder value is 0, which means this particular condition would be true. in the case. When you write 10 mod 3, it means when you divide 10 by 3, if it is the remainder value is equal to 0. In this case, it is not equal to 0, so it will go to the else condition. Can anyone tell me if I say 1 mod 3, what is the what does that actually mean? What would be the remainder value when you divide 1 by 3? If you write something like this, can anyone tell me what Java compiler will return?
So you want us to actually just figure out the answer, right? Like 3, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I'm just asking, like, what do you think would be when you divide 1 by 3, 1 mod 3, what would the Java compiler return?
Would it print nothing?
No, it will print something.
Oh.
But what would be? Any guesses?
I'll take a guess. Would it be the number 8?
What would it be?
If I remember the program correctly, would it be like a number? Would the program function as a number? Like 1 divided by 3, and
Yeah,
it can
what
equal
is that?
3. Can it equal 3? Yes.
So what would it return?
We're trying to figure out how to solve it, right? So 1 divided by 3, does that equal to 8? Question mark.
No.
Okay.
So 1 mod 3 is actually equal to 1. When you divide 1 by 3, the remainder value is equal to 1. That's how the Java compiler will take that specific value. Okay, remember that. If that, whatever is that division operation, if the denominator value is high than the numerator value, then in that case, whatever is the numerator, that would the Java compiler would return that value, which in this case is 1. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense.
Okay, so now here in this case, I can write else it's not a multiple of 2. Is not a multiple of 2. So if I'll run this specific code, enter the number, let's suppose I put 6. 6 is a multiple of 2. That's what I was expecting. Let's suppose if I say 1 in this case, it will return 1 is not a multiple of 2, but it's the specific value would be equal to that number itself which you have inserted. And I can tell you, for instance, if for instance your number 2 is equal to 1 mod number, and here it is integer variable, and let's suppose system dot out dot println, and I'll just print number 2. And let's suppose I I put the number as 5. So if you see, I'm printing the number 2 value, this will return the value which is 1, because 1 mod that 5 value will return the numerator value, even though if it is smaller, which in this case is 1. So remember that if the numerator value is lower than the denominator value, and if you are doing the mod operation, it will just return the numerator value. If it was like, for instance, 2 mod 5, then in that case, it will return your 2. So for instance, I write 5, and then in that case, 2 numerator is a lower number. So 2 divide by 5, the remainder value would be equal to 2, the numerator value. So always remember that specific case. Sometimes students do get confused in terms of if there is a lower number in the numerator. So in this particular program, you can write 3 different conditions, which is for 2, 3, and 5. And I can just copy this, and here this would be for 5. And let's write a simple number. Take a simple number. Let's suppose take 5. So 5 is not a multiple of 2, 5 is not a multiple of 3, and 5 is a multiple of 5. So that was the program I was expecting you to write with in terms of 3 if conditions. And there are several ways that you can write the same program. And in this case, the way we have written is 3 if-else condition. You can write a single if condition as well if you had to print a single output. That is completely fine as well. And the way we usually do is that if we have to combine 2 different operations in the if condition, does anyone remember what operation we use if we have to combine 2 different operations in a single if condition? Does anyone remember? There were 2 operations I gave you last time. Does
I think
anyone
is it double ampersand?
Yeah, yes. So this was OR operation, and there was this AND operation. So when you have to combine 2 different conditions, you can write AND between the 2 operations. So let's suppose if I have to write both conditions over here. Number 2 is number mod 2 double equals to 0 and number mod 3 double equals to 0. So it will check if the input number is multiple of both 2 and 3. And if I change this to an OR operation, it will just check if one of the condition is true. So normally the way you have to understand this concept is, so let's suppose you have 2 conditions, A and B. You can append these 2 conditions either by A and B, or you can write A or B. So this is an AND operation, and this is an OR operation. So in logical gates, how this even works is that, for instance, if we have 2 conditions, A and B, and we have to predict the output for an OR operation, if the 2 values are 0, the output is a 0. If it is 0, 1, the output is 1. If it is 1, 0, the output is 1. And if it is 1, 1, the output is 1. In the case of logical operation, this works as if it is false, false, both the conditions, if both the condition that you are checking is false, the output would be false. If it is false, true, the output would be true. And if it is true, false, the output would be true. And if it is true, true, the output would be true. This happens in an OR operation. This is for OR. For an AND operation, if the same thing you have to write for an AND operation, and if the 2 inputs are given and you have to predict the output, the way it works is, if it is 0, 0, it will be 0. If it is 0, 1, it would be 0. 1, 0 would be 0. 1, 1 would be 1. The only condition it will return a true value is when both of the operation is true. So in terms of our if condition, if though both the condition is leading to a false value, the output would be false. If one of them is false and the other one is true, then also it would lead to false. If it is true, false, the output would be false again. And if it is true, true, then only the output would be true. So in the example that we are doing, we are taking an input from the user. Let's suppose the person enters 5 mod 2 double equals to 0 and let's suppose if I write 5 mod 5 double equals to 0. I want you to predict what would be the value if I have written the same operation with an OR operation versus if I have written the same operation between an AND operation. So can anyone tell me among these two statements, which one would return? This is statement 1 and this is statement 2. Which one would return a true value and which would return a false?
The OR would return a true value because one of them is correct.
Yes.
And the other one would do false.
Yes. So this condition, the very first condition is false because when you divide 5 by 2, the remainder value is not 0. It will be 1. Similarly, 5 mod 5, if the remainder value is 0, so this would be true. But since it is false and true, according to an AND operation, if the two conditions, which is false and true, the output would be false. So this would return a false. And in this case, this one again is false and this is true, but they are separated using an OR operation. An OR operation would lead to two, this is false and true, it would return a true value. So remember, whenever you are combining two different kind of operations and if they are separated using an AND or an OR operation, you should be solving and thinking from the logical operations perspective. So here in this case, the way we can write the same program is that rather than including like 3 else condition, what I can do is I can just append this using, and you can also have like three conditions appended together. And I can write 5 double equals to 0. Then it should say that it's a multiple of one of the numbers, else it is not a multiple of one of the numbers. So if now, for instance, if I take a single value, which in this case is 5, 5 is a multiple of one of the numbers because this is false, and this is true. Let's suppose if I take a value which is 7, then it should return it is not a multiple of one of the numbers, which is 2, 3, and 5. So you have separated 3 different operations using an OR operation. Versus if I write down, if I change this to and, the 3 of the conditions should be true, 3 of them. And 5 times 3, 15, 15 times 2, 30. So 30, I can take an input and this would return an output as that 30 is a multiple of one of the numbers of, or here in this case would be a multiple of all of the numbers. Because I am separating using an AND operation. So you can combine multiple operations using an AND and an OR operation. So remember that specific thing. Now, moving towards some of the other things that we did not cover was this equals operation. So equals operation is something which is written to check the string values. So let's suppose if I have 2 string values, Java, lowercase Java and uppercase Java. So Java has a way to compare both of these two values. So when you compare two numbers, what you do is you can write double equals to, not equal to, greater than equal to, less than equal to. And we did discuss this in the last class that there are multiple ways that you can compare two numbers. So let's suppose if I have number 1 and number 2, I can compare both of these numbers using either double equals to operation, or I can have not equal to operation, or I can have number 1 is greater than equal to operation, or just this operation, or I can have less than or less than equal to operation. So I can write multiple way. We can compare two different numbers using these operations, which are separated or are like less than equal to, greater than equal to, then less than, greater than, double equals to, and not equal to. So these are some of the operations that we can write when we are comparing two numbers together. But when we compare two strings, strings are some in like values that which includes characters. Then in that case, how would that even work? So let's suppose I will get rid of all of this, and let's create two string values. So string str1 is equal to, let's write learn Java, and string str2, let's write learn Java again, and let's create another which is string str3, and inside this I can write Java programming. So I've created three strings with an values which is written as learn Java, and Java programming. These are three strings. If now I have to compare these string values, how would I compare? I cannot do if, or let's first write let me first write a function to just compare, not function, a method, use a method to compare two string values. So the way you will compare the two string values is, let's suppose I create a variable called um, Boolean variable, which is result. So Boolean, if you remember, takes the output is either a true or a false. Like it always can take two values, which is true or a false. So now let's suppose I have to compare these two string values. So what I can do is I can write str1 dot equals, and then str2. So here what I'm doing is I'm comparing, always remember this, the way that you will compare two string values is using this equals operation or equals ignore case operation. Right now we are just doing equals. So what it will do is it will compare string 1 with string 2. And let us suppose I want to store the output, and this will return, equals operation always return either true or false. Always return either true or false. So since I have created the Boolean variable, which is result, and I will store the output in this result. So string 1 would be compared with string 2, and then I will print system.out.println, and then result. So can anyone tell me what would be the output here in this case?
Would print true.
Yeah. So if I'll run this, it will give me true. Here, let me just comment this out. So it will return me true value because both learn Java and learn Java is same. What about if I change this to lowercase? Can anyone predict what would be the output in this case?
Would it return false?
Yeah. So let me just run this. and it will return false. So it is very case sensitive. Even though these two strings are same, the only difference is that one is J is capital case in first one, and the second one it is lowercase. Equals operation would still lead to a false value because it compares character by character, and it also compares the if the character is a uppercase or a lowercase. And if you remember, when we were covering characters, we did see the ASCII code, ASCII, of J. Capital J is different than the lower J. So I can show if you don't remember it. So ASCII table. If you see the capital J, capital J is ASCII over here. Let's see. Very small, but let's try. So J is capital J is what exactly it is. Yeah, J is 74 versus a lowercase j is 106. And the values are two different values, and that is the reason the equals operation would lead to an output which is false in this case. If I compare str1 with str3, both of them are two different values, and in that case, the output in this case would be equal to false, because learn Java and Java programming are two different string variables. Now, let us suppose if the same thing we have to pass in an if condition, how would we write it? So instead of storing it in the result value, what I will do is I will write this in the if condition. So I can also include something like this. So what I will do is I'm here comparing str1 with str3, and the if condition will compare these two values and will return an output saying that and I can say if it is equal, the two strings are equal. Else, it should say the two strings are not equal. So since both of string 1 and string 3 are two different string values, it should return the two strings are not equal. So this equals operation is used when you have to compare two different string values. You cannot write str1 double equals to str3. Like, even though you will write it, it will not be able to compare these two string values. Let's suppose if I say 2 capital J, and here, if I'll compare this value, even though you have written it in equals operation, it is not a good practice to compare two string values by an operation which is double equals to, or something like this. Like this particular operation is not a good operation. It should be always written using this methodology, strings operation especially, to compare it using this specific example, str1 equals str2. Now, let's suppose if you have to compare the two values using, if you have to ignore the case, then in that case, what you can do is you can use this operation called equals ignore case. This is the operation. So here, what will happen is that learn Java and learn Java is the only difference is that the J is lowercase Here it will compare both string 1 and string 2 and it will ignore the case. Then in that case, the output over here would be the two strings are equal, even though one of the character is a lower case. So you can use this another operation called ignore case if you have to compare between two different values, two different string values and ignoring the case. So that was another operation that you can do it. Generally, whenever you are using these kind of an operation, you can use either, like for instance, here in the case, in this particular example, we were passing string 2. You can also write something like this. You can pass string value itself. So let's suppose I can pass this specific value, and here in this case, it will return the two strings are not equal. So rather than passing a string variable, you can always pass a string itself inside this specific function. So Java has this capability of comparing strings, and whenever you are using an equals operation, it will compare the character by character, and it will return either true or false. It will always return a Boolean expression in the end. So we did cover that if you have if and else condition, you can write multiple if else conditions. So let me write one more program for you to so that you know if you have multiple of if else condition. So here in this particular program, let me just get rid of all of this. And let's see, I create an integer variable number equals to 0. And here I'm just checking whether number is a positive value or a negative number. So here I can write if number is greater than 0, then it should print system.out.println, and it should return the number is positive. Else, if the number is less than 0, then it should return this, the number is negative. Is negative. And last one, else, it can write that number is 0. So here you have written a nested else if. So nested else if you remember in the last class, we did discuss that else if works like a tree structure. You have your normal execution of your program. When you reach an if, it branches out. If it is just if it is if else, it will create two branch. And if you write a nested else if else nested, then else can also have further if else conditions. So here in this program, I have written nested else if. So I will first check if the number is positive or the number is negative. When if it is none of these, it will further check. If it is a negative number, it will return the output that it is negative. And if the number is none of these case, it will return the number is a positive value. So it branches out, it creates multiple branches in order to compare. Now let us suppose if I have to write a simple program to compare or find the largest among three numbers. So I want you to try this specific program where you have three numbers. Let's suppose the three numbers that you are taking is, and I can write these three numbers, and I want you to try this specific program. Let's suppose I have number 1, which is 56. Integer number 2 is maybe 78. And integer number 3 is 3, 4. So 3 variables. And I want you to think about how you will write and nested if else to find the largest among these 3 numbers. So think about it, start writing your program, and I'll give like 10 minutes for you to write this specific program, and then I will ask someone to share their screen and tell me what is the output that they are getting when they compare these 3 values using a nested else if condition. I'll give you a hint. You can create another variable called largest, where you can keep track of the largest number. And you can start with, for instance, if number 1 is greater than number 2, then you can just put largest is equal to number 1. Just giving you a small hint so that you can think about let me just write one more. If also number 1 is greater than number 3, then largest number is number 1. Because here you are writing 2 if conditions, if within if condition, and you compared very first time if number 1 is greater than number 2. Next time you are comparing the same number 1 with number 3. If it is greater than both number 2 and number 3, the largest number is number 1. Now write down the same thing for your if it is something else. How would you change it? The same program can be rewritten and improved if you are comparing these 3 numbers. Has anyone completed?
I think I'm almost got it.
Okay. And do you want to share your screen?
Sure. Uh, so I've gotten the if statements, and then I think I just need to put the print line.
Yeah. Let's see if this will work. Yeah.
Just then just
The largest number is, yeah.
yeah. And I was wondering if for this for these conditional statements, if else if is needed for the third one here, or if I could just put else.
Um, let's first see if the
Yeah, actually, yeah, let's see if it works. Cause oh yeah, okay.
unresolved compile the local variable has not been initialized. Which one? Largest?
Hmm. Hmm.
Just make int largest equals to 0 currently in the
Oh,
yeah, just make it 0.
there we go. Then let's see. There we go.
78. Can you change the three numbers? Let's see if
Oh, okay.
make it any random variable. Yeah. Put this time number 1 as the largest number.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Good. And this time make number 3 as the largest number.
All right. Uh-oh.
Yeah, so one condition is not correct. Which one do you think?
I think oh okay, so should this one just be else?
But the problem with an else is that you can not provide a condition if you just write an else.
Oh, okay. Uh hmm. Uh-oh. Wonder what the is the number 3 not a correct variable?
No, this is right variable. Let's see, when you are iterating, so how to debug your program. So we will see, understand like what is the issue with this. So here in this specific example, what you are doing is you are comparing the two first numbers. So line number 11, you compared 85 with 78, correct? So it
Yeah.
is true. So it will go inside, right? It
Oh,
will
I
go
see.
inside. So now you will go on line number 12, and once again you will compare 85 is greater than 106, which is
Which is false.
false, which means where should it go?
I should go to the next one, right?
So it will come outside this if condition itself.
Oh, okay.
So the way that you would have to provide is that inside this, where you are writing the if condition between line 11 to 16, that if should also have an else condition. What do you think would be
Uh,
the else condition over here? If
um,
number 1 is less than number 3, then what should be the case?
oh, then I should go to the next else, which would be this one.
No, 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 no. I'm
Oh,
saying like when you are taking this example, when you are
oh yeah.
inserting the values. So see, number 1, which is 85, is greater than number 2, which is 78. Correct? So it will
Yeah.
go inside the loop. So now inside this, you are checking whether 85 is greater than 106, which is not true.
Hmm.
So it means it should have an else condition.
Okay.
So here you will write else. Yes, go in, enter a line, enter a new line.
Okay.
And largest should be number 3. Do you agree with that?
Oh, I see. Yes. Oh, sorry. Number 3.
Yeah. Number 3, yes.
There we go.
And then
Okay.
semicolon. Yeah, semicolon.
Oh, yeah.
So that condition is satisfied. Now, if you will, now let us suppose. So now the largest number becomes number 3. Can you run your code?
Yeah.
Now,
Oh, there we go.
106 is the largest number. Did you understand like what was the issue in your
Yeah.
code?
Oh, yeah. I understand.
So,
Because if this one comes out here, it doesn't have any else statement to go to.
mhm,
And so,
yeah. So what I can do is I can draw a diagram for you to understand. Okay.
oh, okay.
So we will draw a diagram, but this was a wonderful way of writing the program. So let me share my screen once again. Okay, so when we are comparing 3 values, like 3 integer values, so let me write 3 values if they are differentiated by maybe 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so there are 3 numbers, 1, 2, and 3. Sorry. Okay, so we have 3 numbers, 1, 2, and 3. So we have to check which is the largest number. So let's take first 2 numbers, and we can, when we are writing condition, we can check if 1 is greater than 2. So either it could be true or it could be false. So this is the first condition that we have written. This could be either true or it could be false. When it is true, then in that case, we have to compare 2 different things as well. One is whether 1 is greater than 3 or 1 is not greater than 3, which is the else condition. So here, this could be true or this could be false. So we started with this specific one first. 1 is greater than 2, 2, and this can have 2 conditions, either true or false. So now the very first condition, let's hypothetically consider that 1 is greater than 2. Then in that case, what we can do is we will compare. When we know 1 is greater than 2, it means that 1 could be greater than 3 or 1 could not be greater than 3. So that could have, again, 2 conditions, true or false. If 1 is greater than 2 and 1 is also greater than 3, which means 1 becomes the largest number. True condition, it becomes 1 becomes the largest number. But when 1 is not greater than 3, then it means that 3 becomes the largest number. Does everyone agree with that, or any confusion in that?
I agree.
Okay. And this is because when we have already tested that 1 is greater than 2, which means, and if 3 becomes greater than 1, then it means that 3 is the greatest number. Now, we have compared 1, but we haven't compared. So we have compared 1 and 2, and we have compared 1 and 3, but we never compared 2 and 3. So in that case, where we would write that particular condition. So remember, this one also had a false condition. Now, a condition where 2 could be greater than 1. In that case, it will lead to a false, and inside this, we will compare 2 and 3. So now, once again, we will compare whether 2 is greater than 3. And this time, once again, it can be true or false. True, or it could be false. If it is true, then in that case, 2 becomes the largest number. Otherwise, 3 becomes the largest number. So now you can understand the complexity of this code in terms of else and if. When we are comparing 3 different values, you should have for every condition an else part and compare it in such a way that you can compare the 3 numbers together. And we will write that specific code so that you can check if that makes sense. So here in this case, the very first part which we have completed was number 1 and number 3. So let me minimize this. So number 1, line number 12, we have done that specific part. This one is line number 12. That is this condition we are checking. And this condition, if it becomes true, next we are comparing this condition, which is number 1 is greater than number 3. If this is true, we are putting 1 as the largest number. So I just coded this particular part for you. This part is still missing. So what we can do is we can now write the rest of the code, which is if this becomes not true, if the first condition becomes not true, then largest equals to number 3. So once again, if you will look at this, is this where exactly it is? I want to show this way. Okay, now. If you now see that if this condition is false, then it should return 3 is the largest number. So we coded this particular part as well. Now what is missing is this particular part, which we still have to code. So can anyone tell me where exactly this line of code will come? Will it come on line number 18 or will it come on line number 20?
Would it be line number 20?
Line number 20, yes. Because this part is finished. This specific part was this part. Now we have to write the else condition for line number 12. Line number 12, else condition. So in that case, here we will write else. And else here or and inside this, we can check if number 2 is greater than equal to number 3, then largest is number 2, else largest is number 3. So here, that is what I have written, else if number 2 is greater than equal to 3, this particular condition. If this is true, then return the largest number as 2, else return the largest number as 3. So that is the reason whenever you start writing program, if you remember that in the initial classes, I did mention algorithm plays an important role. Algorithm helps us in defining how we would be writing a program. So if I had not visualized, or if I have not written it in this specific manner, I would have a hard time in checking all the conditions. But if, for instance, if you create something like in the terms of visualization, then it becomes easy to code it up. And then you can always check if the conditions are true or not. And finally, after this, I can write system.out.println, and inside this, I can write the largest number. And now let's see if this program actually works. So this time we had 56, 78, and 54. Number 2 became the largest one. This time I will make the first number as the largest number. So it should return 156. That is also true. And finally, I'll make number 3 as the largest one. And let's see if that also works. And this time it returns 254. Any questions in understanding this? Is it complicated? Or was it easy?
That was pretty complicated, but now I understand it.
Yeah, so nested if else become slightly complicated, but the always it's a good practice that you first create like a tree structure, a conditional structure, that if it becomes true, if it becomes false, that very similar to this. This has really helped me in creating my code. If I create like a tree structure where I always put the conditions of true and false. Every if condition should have an else condition. If you do not write an else condition, then in that case, it becomes complicated. So, Dominic, if you remember, you had not written this particular part. This was missing. So it was neglecting the case where number 3 was the largest number. And it could be the case. And you had just coded this particular part. The first one, not this middle part. So always remember to have, whenever you are writing if else conditions, have like a tree structure where if condition can have true, it can have false, and for every if there should be a true versus a false condition, and it should always lead to the leaf node. It should end at a specific part. And in each one of these cases, it was ending either in 1, 3, 2, or 3. So it was always leading to a final value. So always remember to include a true and false conditions. So this is all we covered. That, for instance, here we are comparing 2 different values. We can have multiple conditions. We can have with a single statement. We can have another one. This is an if and else condition. So let me, let's see. Once again, I'll present it. Okay, here. So here we just have if and else. If this inside condition becomes true, this discount percent is 0.2, else it is 0.1. Here in this case, we are using an equals operation to compare the customer type. And if the customer type is T or something else, it will compare it with a specific value. And once you are comparing, if the customer type is either equal to true, or the T or a C value, you are assigning certain things. So it's a if else condition with a string operation being compared, which in this case is using an equals operation. There is another important thing which you should remember is a while condition. While condition is it's a kind of a loop which iterates continuously, like continuously it repeats itself. So remember, I mentioned in very initial classes that there are three kind of statements that you can write. One is a normal statement, like a statement. The other one is a conditional statement where you provide condition. If there is rain, take an umbrella. Otherwise, don't take an umbrella. And the third one is a continuous, an iterative function which continuously repeats itself. And in that case, the perfect example for that is a while condition where it should repeat for continuous amount of time until and unless a condition becomes satisfied. So here in this case, a while is something where you have to continuously check from the user to input a specific value. And if the user enters a specific value, then only it should process it. Otherwise, it should come outside. So that's how the while conditions actually work. And this would help you in writing your third assignment. And I will be changing the due date for assignment number 3. It will be due next week rather than this week, because I believe you guys need little bit practice of else if conditions. But I would encourage you to at least start writing the code for module number for your module 3, and I'll show you what exactly is your assignment. So currently your assignment is due on week 1, week 2, week 3. This is the assignment week 3. This is due on October 4th, but I'll change it to next week. So here what we are doing is you have to first print welcome to the temperature converter, then enter the degrees in Fahrenheit, and it should return degrees in Celsius. And then this condition that you have to write is taking input from the user, whether the person enters yes or no. When the person enters yes, once again, you will ask the enter degrees in Fahrenheit. If the person doesn't enter it, it should it should just come out of the loop. So every time this condition needs to be checked using a while operation that you have to write down. So here in this case, the way it works is something like this. So I'll just copy it and I'll show it in the program. Let me just create a new class. Public static void main. Inside this, scan SC, new scanner, import Java or util dot star. Okay. So you would have to write something like this in your code. And the way you would have to write it is that you can ask input from the user. And if the string choice, whatever is the string choice the user is entering, it will continuously check when the case is equal to the while. And if it is not, it will just process it. Once again, I'll show you this code so that you first understand, and then I will explain. So let's suppose it is asking me continue, yes or no. So I say yes. If I say capital yes, it will continue. As soon as I say N, it should come out of the code. Like it will not do anything. It should just stop. Or let me just say system.out.println. The program has been terminated. I'll rerun this. And this time, yes, capital yes, no, and the program has been terminated because I input a value which is not that. What about if I do not put yes or no, and if I put some other character, let's suppose A, what will happen? Can anyone guess?
Will it still have the same result as the n?
Which is the program has been terminated.
Yeah.
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 And it will print the program has been terminated. So what is going on in this code? Let's try to understand. So generally, when you write your while conditions, so while is a kind of an iterative operation, a repetitive operation, until and unless the condition is satisfied. So what you do is you write this keyword called while, and inside this you provide the condition. And the condition could be any condition, which is comparing a number, comparing a string, or anything else. And if this condition is true, it will repeat it, whatever you have written inside the code. If this condition becomes false, if this condition becomes false, then in that case, it will not go inside the loop. It will not go and it will directly come outside whatever is written in the while condition. So remember this. So when the condition is true, then it will go inside and do whatever you are asking. And if that condition becomes false, then in that case, it will not go inside, versus it will just come outside the loop, and whatever is written outside the loop would be executed. So here in this code, what is going on is you are comparing choice, where choice is a Boolean variable, and you are comparing whether it is equal to y or no. If it is equal to y, if the very first time, when you have already initialized it as y, so it will go inside it because choice is equal to y, because you have already initialized it as a y value. Now it is comparing with the lowercase y. So it means it is true. This becomes true. So this condition becomes true. So it will go inside. And inside this, what you are doing is you are asking the compiler to print continue y versus n. And that's why as soon as you run this program, you will see continue y or n. And then you will take that input from the user, and that input, this input that you have taken from the user, would now become choice value, which was y, and it would erase the previous value. So what is going on in this code is, firstly, when the very first time you had this variable called choice, you initially created choice value as y. And what did you do is you will compare this y value with this um, equals method, and you are using ignore case, so it will compare either capital case y or lowercase y. Since already the choice value that initially that you had created is y, this condition becomes true and it will go inside the loop where it will print on the console that whether you want to continue, yes or no. So that's on the terminal you will see. And as soon as I enter A, then in that case, what happens is this choice value would be replaced by A value. And once again, it will check the condition. So it will come back to the loop again and check the condition. And this time, this will compare A with a Y value, with this value. And that is the reason this A and Y, which is the condition, is not equal to true. So it will directly come outside and it will say the program has been terminated. Versus if you had a value which you are inserting, I think I can change the brush size. I don't know. And Okay, anyways, I'll try to make it little dark so that you guys can see. Yeah, I think this is better. So you have this choice variable, which is a character variable. The very first time when you initialized it as y. Next time, when you are comparing y with the y, and if the user inputs a y, once again, this is y value, and it will again check the condition. So the condition becomes true. So once again, it will go inside and will ask the user to input a value. Next time, again, if you're inserting y, once again, it will go inside the loop and it will do the rest of the operation. As soon as this y value becomes at some other value, then in that case, it will just print the program has been terminated. So I will run this code once again, and you can see what will happen. So it is asking me yes or no. I inserted y, and it was again asking y again, completely fine. As soon as I press n, now in that case, this y value is replaced by n, and it will compare whether n is equal to y using this equals ignore case, and this becomes false, which means it will come outside the loop and it will print the program has been terminated. And let's see, this is how this is executed, and it will print the program has been terminated. So while operation always works in a way that it checks the condition. Once the condition is satisfied, it will go inside the loop and it will compare it. Now, can anyone tell me if I change this to n, what would be the output in this case? Will I still be getting continue y and n, or I will not get?
You won't. It'll
I
just
won't.
do program terminated automatically.
Yes. So as soon as I do it, I see the program has been terminated. Can you explain me, Dominic, why?
Because it's checking for the Y and it starts off not being a Y, which automatically terminates it.
Yes. So it will never go inside the while condition and it will come outside the while condition and you will get the program has been terminated. So always remember, first condition is checked. If the condition is true, then only it will go inside the loop. But if the condition is false, then it will never go inside the loop. So in your program, what you're supposed to do is you will be taking, first of all, a user input. So for instance, the user inputs like 212, you will write a mathematical function to compare, not compare, to assign certain values, and you will create that, change the degree, which is in Fahrenheit, to a Celsius. And the formula is whatever is the input value, for instance, if it is 212 minus 32 times 5 divided by 9. And this will give you the degrees, and that value you will print it on the screen. Then once again, you will check whether the person needs more input from the user, like the program needs more input from the user, and the user enters yes. Once again, you will ask this specific things. So can anyone tell me all of this, would it be written inside the while condition or outside the while loop? All of this. These 3 lines, where do you think it should be? Actually, these 2 lines. Well, actually, these 3 lines. Where exactly it would be? Whether it would be inside the while or whether it would be outside.
It would be inside because you'd want the 2 lines above it to also stop when they hit end, right?
Yes. So this would be inside. So the way you would be writing your code is that first of all, you can check first condition, and where the condition is this. And what you can do is inside this, you can just create, outside this, you can create a variable integer number, equals to sc dot next int, and here you will take the first you will print system.out.println. Welcome to converter. Welcome to the temperature converter. And then inside this, when the condition is true, what you will do is you can, or let me do one thing. Rather than taking an input over here, I will take system.out.println. And inside this, you will write enter the temperature, whatever it is. And then you can take this number equals to sc.nextInt. You will do the mathematical computation, which could be, you can create another variable, and this time make sure that you make it as a double variable because you are, it could be a double value, and this could be Celsius. And this Celsius would be equal to that operation, which is taking the number, which is Fahrenheit minus whatever that number is, let's suppose 34. And this one would be, what is the error? Did I write it? Cannot convert. Okay. So can anyone tell me what is the issue over here? Cannot convert from int to double. What should I do in this case?
Should you make the original number a double?
Yes. What is the other way? What I can do is,
You can parse double, right?
yes. So I can use that particular function, which is either you can typecast it. So using this, remember typecasting, that this number would be now would be turned into double. Remember typecasting, that concept that I taught you, that if the value that it is returning is an integer, you can typecast it to some other variable, which in this case is double. And then that would be assigned as a Celsius, or the other way is just you create a variable rather than as an integer variable, you will create a double variable. Once you do this, you will output that processed value. So you will say system.out.print, whatever is that processed value, which in this case is the Celsius. And here, and then Celsius value, and then you will again ask whether you want to continue or not. And this particular operation would be a repetitive operation. So something like this program, you have to do it. So let's just do one thing. I'll put the assignment, this particular assignment still due on Friday, but quiz, I will change it to some other day because I've already written this program. So it should be easy for you guys to just code this up. So what I'll do is this one, M3 assignment is due on your October 4th, and your quiz, I'll make it next week. Okay, so that you will have enough time, because I still have to cover some of the topics which I have not yet covered. So I will make this one due maybe next week, which is on Monday. Or maybe Wednesday. Let me just do it on Wednesday. So your assignment is still due on this Friday, which is October 4th. M3 assignment, where you will take the input, and I showed you the very similar kind of code you have to write with some tweaks. And your quiz would be due next week. Okay, any questions? If not, I can end the class today so that you guys can start working on this assignment and you can submit it. And I will cover chapter number 3, everything in your book, chapter number 3 on Monday, and so that you can do your assignment, which is M3 quiz on Wednesday. Okay. If no questions, feel free to leave the class. And if you have questions, I'm here to answer.
Just a
Yes.
second. The assignment's due this Friday, right? And the
Yeah,
quiz is next
assignment.
Wednesday.
Yes.
Okay. Just double checking. All right, Miss. Have a nice day.
Yeah. Yeah, Lillian. Lillian, you have a question? Lillian, question? I cannot hear you. What module is Eclipse is? What do you mean by that? This is Eclipse. It's Java. You have to write it in Java. And the link I have given you from where you will download it